sumptuous lunch. I hope the F5 team here, headed by Dhananjay, would be making you awake, keeping an interesting topic of the day. That is security of applications and APIs, which is everywhere. And people talk about knowledge economy some time back. Then we are talking about because digital India, digital economy. But I think it's more API economy, right? The kind of influence, impact API is making in this world, and specifically in India, thanks to COVID. Normally we should not say thanks to COVID, but everyone started working on financial applications to health applications to education. Everywhere apps are available, but there's a lot of worry also. So in this context, we are very happy to invite Sri Dhananjay, MD of F5, and their team, Vaishali, then Deepak Chopra and Sarans Kaushik, who would be dwelling on the distributed cloud computing and how it takes care of the security using the AI and ML technologies. So I would actually, without taking much of the time, I would request Vaishali to handle this platform and make you comfortable in the journey of technologies related to the application security and APIs everywhere. Over to Vaishali. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharad. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. We all just had lunch, right? So we need that energy and excitement going. Because the topic you just heard from Dr. Sharad, it's about securing applications and API everywhere. Does all of us have applications on the phone? Or let me ask the other way. Does anyone just have just for answering and no texting on the phone? Does somebody use a phone for that reason? No, right? So it's everything about application. Today's landscape, digital landscape, is all about applications, and it all boils down to how we will be securing our applications and APIs everywhere and easily. The word easily I'm emphasizing because in the next 90 minutes, our colleagues for the next 90 minutes is going to be letting you all know how you can be securing and empowering you all to secure your applications and API everywhere. So in today's digital landscape, all of us will agree that there's tremendous growth of cloud services, mobile applications, and Internet of Things, which has created a significant threat landscape. Agree? Yes? No? So with this, we would like to also know that all of us here will be thinking we need a robust and a comprehensive solution which will help us to secure our applications. So that's the thing what we are going to be doing. So what I'm going to request all of you is, let it be interactive session, because every day we'll be dealing with the applications, and that's one of the top of the mind that all of us think in our organizations, how we can secure it so that we don't have any threat or being attacked on our applications, and how we can keep it up and running. So for that, I would like to be calling upon Mr. Deepak Chopra, who's a team leader for solution engineering, to walk us through he'll be sharing some latest trends, best practices, and insights, which will help you all to collect those nuggets as to how you can secure your applications and API anywhere. And also, if you have any queries, just feel free to stop us. We are right here, and our colleagues are also right here over the next 2 days as well. We look forward to connecting with you all. Thank you. Over to Deepak.
Yeah, thank you, Vishali. First of all, just want to know how many of you are familiar with F5? I mean, what F5 does? How many of you are familiar apart from knowing F5 just as a load balancer company? Okay, so we started as a load balancer company. That's right. I mean, I would not be wrong if I make this statement that we are the one who actually given load balancer to the mankind. Just a brief introduction about the company. We started as a gaming company, and it's very few people know this. And to handle that infrastructure, that gaming infrastructure, we developed a product to handle or to distribute the traffic, or for that gaming traffic, right? And that product itself was such a hit that we launched it as a load balancer, and that's how the journey started. So F5, I mean, I just want to make this statement so that when you go out of this room, this should stick to your mind, that anything that you can think around an application, whether it is an application security, whether it is application availability, or application performance, we have a solution around it. Whether your application is hosted on the cloud, or it is on the data center, or it's at the edge, wherever in the world, if you're just thinking about these three parameters about the application, we have a solution for it. And as Vishali rightly mentioned, I mean, why we are talking so much about these APIs and these applications nowadays? Because the level of dependency we have on these applications is huge, right? Because most of you, or probably many of you, would have taken a cab this morning to come to this event. That's again an app, right? Many of you would have ordered food yesterday. That's again an app. Many of you would have done your day-to-day activity. And when I say app, it is both mobile app as well as websites, right? I mean, I used to remember one instance when my mother used to send to me to the government office to submit the bijli ka bill and water bill and all that stuff, right? So I used to go with cash or check and we used to deposit that thing. Everyone remembers that time. But nowadays, do you really go to the government office to submit your electricity bill? Everything that you do is do online. And as Dr. Saab rightly mentioned, we should not thank COVID for that, but yes, with the COVID, the digital transformation took a pace where maximum organizations realize this fact that if they want to really survive, they need to have a physical or online presence, and that is where they started they started focusing on these applications as well as APIs. It's not working, sorry for the technical glitch. Oh, it's not reflecting there. It's not reflecting there. Okay. Sorry. So as these applications grow, so it actually improves the user experience a lot. It actually, when you develop these applications, right, it brings a lot of opportunities to you, as well as at the same time it brings a lot of challenges as well. When I talk about the opportunities, right, I mean, whenever a business unit, like if I am a startup, if I come up with an application or with any business logic, that business logic has to be very in line with the end user experience, right? Like for example, because at this point in time the customer is the application that they're accessing has to be very fast, right? I mean, imagine you access any application and it's not really responsive. You would switch to an alternate application the very same moment. So the application has to be very responsive. So that is where the challenges also comes within application, because when you have to make sure that these applications run faster, you have to make sure that it is secure enough, it should be available all the time, and it should perform at the speed of light. I mean, that's how the user experience is I mean, imagine that there's no point of, I would not say that infrastructure security is not important. I mean, that's obviously important, but for a business unit, the end goal is to have a rich user experience. Let's say if they have spent millions of dollars on the firewall or on the servers or whatsoever, but the end application is not friendly enough, they'll not able to generate business out of it, right? So that is where the opportunities as well as challenges comes into play. And nowadays, when you talk about these applications, the entire applications are changing in itself, because previously it used to be a monolithic application. To make you understand, a monolithic application is just a single line of code which you deploy on a server, right? But nowadays, it is the monolithic applications have moved to the microservices applications, because the kind of performance and agility that you need from an application, it's been achieved through an microservices only. To give an example of what is a microservices application, take an example of Amazon. You have a shoe section there, you have a mobile phone, clothes and all that stuff, cart, payment. The moment you browse your Amazon site, let's say it's a big billion-day sale or whatever, that Diwali sale, and you've gone to that website to buy a lot of stuff. You add shoe, you add mobile phones, and you add other stuff. The moment you go to cart, it will make an API call to that particular service, so that it actually shows you that, okay, 3 quantities or 4 quantities. That's how the application works internally. It is not an IP-driven communication. It is not an IP-driven communication. It is an API-driven communication. So, and during this sale, right, maximum products that is being sold is electronics. So, if it is a monolithic application, the organization would have to scale up the entire infrastructure to support the entire application. Whereas if it is based on a microservices architecture, you would just probably scale up that one particular service, which is electronics, right? That's how you achieve that agility and performance. Previously, traditional world used to have all everything on-prem, but now things have moved to the cloud, to the edge locations. Your workloads, some of your workloads are in the data center, some of the workloads are in the cloud. So it's a distributed architecture that you have right now. It's no more a network-based communication, it's an API-based communication right now, and it's not a data-centric, specific, it's more of a distributed architecture. So what is the challenges that you have with these distributed architecture? Let's say you have a web application firewall, you developed your website, some of the business logics, because of some cost or commercial angle, you have hosted it on the AWS, let's say, or someone on other public cloud. Some of your workloads are on a co-location, and some of the workloads are in data center. While and the security posture of the entire application has to be similar, right? You have to maintain that similar security posture at the on-prem, on the cloud, as well as the co-location. And it is very difficult because every environment has a different tool set. Every environment have different tools. So it is always good to have a solution which can have a consolidated single pane of glass security for the entire application state, without worrying about this fact that where your applications are hosted. Yeah. So when I talk about these applications, right? So APIs are the core thing to it, because when you develop what are APIs? Just a very simple layman example. You go to a restaurant, you ask your waiter to get a soup, right? He goes to the kitchen, or imagine that there's no waiter in the restaurant. You want to have soup first, then you go with starters, and then main course, and then desserts and drinks by the side. So if there's no waiter in it, let's say, so you would enter the restaurant, you'll go to the kitchen, you'll ask for the soup, you'll pick up the soup, you'll come to your table, you'll have the soup. Then you'll go to the kitchen again, ask for the starters, get the starters, come back again. It's not sounding right, right? So when you have a waiter there, he is acting as an API gateway for you. So what is the job of an API gateway is that API gateway takes the request and pull and get you the required service for you. So when you ask the waiter that, okay, I want this, he goes on your behalf to the endpoint and he gets that service for you. So that's an API gateway, just to make you a little clear. So, and why these APIs are important? Because when you develop let's say if I'm an entrepreneur and I thought of launching a restaurant or a food delivery app, let's say. My core function or my main business logic is to get maximum revenue from that food delivery app. I would not really go ahead and develop my own Google map. I will not really go ahead and develop my own payment gateway, because that business logic is already there, right? So I would leverage what is already existing. So you use APIs to leverage a business logic which is already there, right? And that is why whenever you have an application or a mobile application, you never built one single application. You built an ecosystem. And that ecosystem involves your application, your code, as well as the APIs with which it interacts. Whether it can be a payment gateway, or like you log in and it say that log in through Facebook or log in through Gmail or whatsoever. Because the kind of user base Facebook and Gmail has, you will not be able to develop that user base on your own. So that we leverage those APIs. And we interact with these APIs on a daily basis. I mean, knowingly or unknowingly. This is very slow here. So, and talking about these APIs, over a period of time, these APIs have increased humongously. I mean, when in 2009 it was used to be just 1.5 billion APIs, and now it's predicted to be going above 7 billion, right? And when you talk about these APIs, so APIs is a code, right? And it is very difficult to handle that code, because a developer has developed that business logic, given that API to you. But do you really need the entire thing? I mean, let's say he has given you the entire Google map, for example, and I'm just dealing within India or within the northern states of India. You would not really need a Google map which is US or Australia, right? So it's like that also, that control, that manageability, and that API security is also important, where you need to take care of that what business logic or what data is actually being exposed from that API to your code, or vice versa. So the accessibility of the API is extremely important. The manageability of the API is extremely important, because when you develop an API, or when you have to go through entire software development life cycle, right? Like you plan for it, then you design, then you implement, then you test, then you integrate, then you does the integration testing, rigorous testing, unit testing, and all that stuff. And if there's any change, then again you have to follow that entire software development life cycle. So in terms of manageability of it, there has to be a platform which can help you with the manageability of the APIs from the versioning perspective or deploying perspective, testing perspective, and all that stuff. So with the APIs, we have heard this, that there are a lot of good things about APIs, that what APIs does, what all business logic it provides, how it can really help the organizations, but it actually comes with a lot of security risk also, because it is open by design. Anyone can use any API. Like if I develop an app, I can easily go and integrate Google Map with me, with my app, right? So it is open by design. So when you build an ecosystem, so you are sure about your application code, right? But are you really sure about how you are actually interacting with the APIs with which you are integrating? That is one, and vice versa, whether that API is getting interacted with your code. So the attack surface gets increased, and it is difficult to observe, because a lot of times you focus on the infrastructure side of it, or the that it's whenever there is an attack, you blame a firewall guy. Your firewall is not working, right? I mean, and sometimes I feel sorry for the firewall folks as well, but that it's not always their fault, because maximum times the workloads, the maximum times the protocol attack, if I would say, DNS and HTTP, these are the two top most protocols being attacked in any organization, whether it's a DDoS attack in terms of DDoS attack, or a low and slow attack, or whatever. As I was mentioning, it exposes extra data, because developers build flexible APIs that provide more data which is required. So you have to define a wall around it, that okay, this much of data should be pulled in, right? Like for example, if I make my trip, if I have to book a train from Delhi to Chandigarh, I go to make my trip, I check a train from Delhi to Chennai or Delhi to Chandigarh. It makes a API call to the IRCTC and gets that data. So that data which is real time getting transferred, it is a get method which is being thrown from the Make My Trip app to the IRCTC app. So I would rather block other methods like post, port, and all that stuff to limit the exposure of that data, or limit the exposure of the accessibility. Now with this, to take care of all these kind of attacks, and to have a similar level of security around your application and APIs wherever they are, F5 built a platform called a distributed cloud, where we make sure that we have a consistent, secure security policy. When we talk about security policy, it is about protecting your applications from the web application attacks, layer 3, layer 4 DDoS attacks, layer 7 attacks, API security, API protection, API discovery, and fraud protection, and a lot of other stuff that we do through a distributed cloud environment. And protect modern apps and APIs at the speed of digital experience, digital business, because you have to be very, very quick when you have to do this onboarding of this application, because nowadays the business logic changes every day. If you have to make your security policy, configure a security policy, you can't just wait for configuring or you can't just wait for 1 month to get your security policy mature enough so that you can actually deploy it in front of your application. So as Vaishali rightly mentioned, we make things ridiculously easy because you will be able to show this, you'll be able to see this in the demo, which Saransh would cover, that how within 5 minutes, in exactly by clock, in less than 5 minutes, we'll be able to deploy a web application security policy. We'll be able to onboard your application, and we'll be able to protect your application in less than 5 minutes. And platform is a global network. Is based on the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we leverage the machine learning and artificial intelligence technical insights across the world, and the threat intelligence that we have from different customers. So it's based on that platform. So consistent protection for the legacy and modern applications. Now I'll tell you the problem with having multiple workloads spread across multiple environments. Let's say just I would not. Okay, let's say an example of web application firewall. You have a vendor X WAF on-prem, vendor Y WAF on your AWS, and vendor Z WAF on your local or some edge location. The configuration is different. The capability of each of these products is different. The reporting is different. The manageability is different. The skill set that you need is different. So even if you have the skill set, you will still never be able to build a consistent security profile across your multiple locations or multiple workloads. So that is where F5 plays an important role, because we protect or we will create a policy for you which will be applicable for all your infrastructure. I mean, despite of the fact wherever your workloads are located, whether it is located on-prem or it is edge or on the cloud. Protect the modern apps and APIs at the pace of digital business. This is extremely important, because when you talk about protecting APIs, before protecting the APIs, you should know all the APIs in your infrastructure. Because what happens is, there is a developer who was who was brilliant at his work. He developed a lot of APIs. He was like old timer. He's been like 5 years. We've been working with you, and he left one fine day. And you realize that whatever APIs he developed, you don't have really visibility of it. You don't really know that what all APIs are there in your data center or for your application. So something you cannot protect something which you don't know. So in order to protect something, you should know that what you are actually trying to protect. So in that case, the platform helps you with the automated API discovery. So the moment you onboard the application, it will tell you that okay, these all APIs are available within these applications. And the moment you have that APIs and after that only you will be able to protect those APIs at a faster speed. And the platform, as I mentioned, is based on the machine learning and artificial intelligence platform. So it's like your learning or your failure could be my learning, because it's a common platform. If there's an attack happening in the US and a similar attack is seen in India after like several months, it will be stopped, because that's how the machine learning or this AI platform works. It leverages on data, it works on that data, and it keeps on building that data on its own. Now I'll just talk about few core use cases with some customer case studies as well. So we protect prevent the application exploit. We mitigate the bot attacks and other automated attacks. This is extremely important, because when you talk about attacks on these applications, maximum attacks are from the bot, because attackers, they don't really do it manually. They use some automated tool to throw a lot of traffic on your application. It is easy to stop a web application attack or to but it is difficult to distinguish between a human traffic and a bot traffic. And it is even more difficult to distinguish between whether it is a good bot or a bad bot. If I talk about Google search engine, it is a bot in itself, right? If you go to any travel website, there's a pop-up happens, right? It asks you that whether you booked your ticket, have you planned your dates, with whom you are traveling, how many people are traveling, what is your name, contact number, and all that stuff. So that's the chat bot, right? And it's a good bot. You can't stop everything. So it is difficult to distinguish between human and bot. It is even more difficult to distinguish between good bot and a bad bot. So the platform protects you from the because the kind of algorithms that we have that captcha capability and that JavaScripting, TLS fingerprinting, which actually throws at the browser level and does a lot of checks at the browser level, because how the user is interacting with the application, how the user behavior is a critical point to identify whether the traffic is really coming from a user or from a bot. I'll take an example. Like, let's say, how many of you access your net banking applications, right? How many of you actually copy username and paste it on some website which you frequently visit? Very few, right? Because you know your password, you know your username, you just type it, right? But let's say if that password is getting pasted in just in microsecond, it's not possible for a human. It's not possible for a human to actually generate traffic or generate that clicks within with the web sprawl that happens, right? It is not possible for a human to have that many of clicks in just a microsecond. So these small things are, this is called the behavioral, the user attributes that we check at the network level, at the user browser level and other stuff, which actually identifies whether it is a bot traffic or a human traffic. Sorry. Discover and control APIs, as I already talked about it. Protect app infrastructure is the platform protects you from the DDoS attack as well, and whether it is a layer 3 DDoS attack or layer 4 DDoS attack or layer 7 DDoS attack. And stop fraud and account takeover as well. So this is protect your application exploit. This is F5 WAF engine. I have included one slide. Whatever solutions I'm talking about, whether it is your API security, it is web application firewall, DDoS, load balancer, you already know. I mean, that comes in different form factors. We want to have as a software solution on-prem, we have it. You want to have it as an appliance, we have it. You want to have it on the public cloud, we have those solutions as well. You want to have it as a SaaS-based offering, managed SaaS-based offering, we have that solution as well. Because manageability is extremely important. The skill set for an application protection is a challenge these days. That's why we come up with a SaaS-based offering, which is a completely managed service. So this is your F5 WAF engine, which is F5 your F5 Advanced WAF, Nginx App Protect, and the distributed WAF. Then comes, this is one of the case studies where a customer was having multiple workloads spread across multiple locations. I mean, he was having some of the workloads in data center, some of them on the cloud, and he was struggling with having a common security policy. So that is where we actually recommended our distributed cloud solution, WAF solution, where wherever he is, whether he is sitting on-prem, whether he is sitting on the public cloud or on the edge, the moment he'll and wherever his applications are hosted. So wherever the user is, wherever the application is, it'll go through the F5 cloud, and it's F5 own cloud. It's like not that we are hosting our solutions on a public cloud. It's a F5 own POP. We have 2 POPs in India, one in Chennai, one in Mumbai, totally F5 owned. All the traffic goes through F5 cloud with having a similar level of security policy, because that was a customer prime concern. Now he does not really have to worry about having different security policies for different workloads spread across different locations. He just have one security policy and protect it for that application, and he's good to go. Mitigate bots and other automated attacks. As I was mentioning, we do a lot of stuff: user behavioral patterns, header patterns, browser fingerprinting, how the connection is being maintained. So it's just not looking at, we say, yeah. Can you just pass on the mic, please?
You said that's a distributed WAF.
Yeah.
In your POP.
Yeah.
So when it comes for a SIM integration, so these WAF logs are then transported back to the on-prem SIM.
Yes, yes, it can be done.
How do you do that?
It can be done. So there's a way you can actually have those logs stored in the cloud itself, and if you want to, yeah.
Okay.
Are you covering that in your demo? Okay. Or you just want to answer it?
So basically, we can integrate the API for that SIM solution in our console. So for an example, if you are facing any sort of an attacks on XC and we have just detected that, so in real time that would forward to your SIM. Yes. We work on connector,
Correct.
we work on API, so both works for us. Sir.
I think his question is from cloud to cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Go directly.
No, so it's about both of the SIM solutions, on-prem as well and cloud as well. So if you have some QRadars deployed at your on-prem, so we can also send the logs via QRadar on your on-prem. And if you're having certain cloud solution as well, we can also do that. So a lot of API integrations. Not only this, we have certain security insertion services as well. So we want to integrate certain firewalls from here itself, or you want to deploy the firewall from this console itself. That feasibility is also there.
So you just need to have an API connector or through an API call. Despite of the fact where your SIM is located, whether it's on the cloud or on the prem, we can send logs to it. So this is extremely important because in order to identify a bot, you have to have very advanced level detection and mitigation mechanisms. Like whenever there's a packet that hits our platform, it sends a JavaScript back to that client, and that JavaScript makes a lot of system calls to identify that what kind of user behavior it is. As I was mentioning, it is not really, it will identify the user behavior, whether it is doing a copy paste, whether it is scrolling, whether it's clicking in just like 1,000 clicks in 1 second and like that. So these are the normal human user behavior and a bot behavior. That's how we distinguish between a user or a normal human and or a bot. So this is again so there was one of the banks who was having seeing a lot of bot attacks on its mobile applications logging page or the internet banking logging page. Though they've been a lot of security controls deployed already to protect those applications and those mobile applications, but still they were not able to mitigate those bot attacks, because the bot attacks itself is very mature in nature, because the hacker retool itself again and again. The moment you'll stop them, they retool their way of hacking, and then again they'll get into you. So this is one of the customers who actually reached out to us, and we actually onboarded their applications, and we were able to protect them in just like immediately, and that's how we close this particular order. Discover and control APIs. So when you because when the traffic is going through our distributed cloud and it is going and accessing our backend application, we are sitting in between, right? So we have this flexibility to identify what all APIs are being accessed, and that is why the automatic discovery of the APIs happens, and where we leverage our machine learning and artificial intelligence as well. So this is just one slide I have kept, which is a kind of a logical. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you do that? Because US is an integrated with WAF with API integrated, or it's a standalone?
No, it's more about you have when the user who's accessing your application, right? There are multiple APIs within that application, and you have to protect those APIs also. It's not just because a lot of attacks happens at the API level and not just at the website or web code level. So the API discovery will tell you there are two ways. One is that you upload the Swagger file, and it will have all those shadows APIs and all that stuff. So that is one list of APIs. Another is that you put on the API discovery, which will tell you the entire list of APIs. Once you have the entire list of APIs, then you can actually put API security on top of it. That how you gonna protect those APIs from that, what kind of methods, whether you want to rate limit it, whether you want to put some level of authentication and authorization on that API. So yeah.
So that can be put directly. I suppose I want to expose my API.
Yeah.
It should be obfuscated.
Yeah.
Internal APIs I won't do that. External APIs I want to give an obfuscation. I can just with a tick mark I can do that. That's what you want to say?
Obfuscation, I think we'll be able to.
Okay.
Sure. So just at a broader level, we are not, as I was mentioning, I mean, we have a solutions like your DDoS, and which sits at the perimeter as a first line of defense. Then I'll just quickly cover it, because we just not have solutions around the application. We protect the infrastructure. We have solution on the core level, and we have a solution at the application level, whether it is a web application firewall, server load balancer, and the Nginx. At the infrastructure level, you have DDoS sitting at the perimeter as the first line of defense, and DNS with the DNS security. Then you have a single sign-on solution and SSL VPN solution, because organizations have a lot of applications and you just can't access each of those applications individually. So you rather, it is always advisable that you put all your applications behind one single web portal and you integrate with multi-factor authentication. The moment you access that web portal, all the applications behind it will be accessed through single sign-on without actually giving trouble to the user to provide username and password for the individual applications again and again. Now coming to the core side of it, we have a SSL visibility solution, where we take the packet, we decrypt it, and we can actually feed it to multiple security controls. Coming to the application side of it, I think WAF and server load balancer is something which is very you guys are familiar with. I just put, yeah. No, it will sit here. I'll talk about it because till this point, it is north-south traffic, and after this, it is east-west traffic, right? And your API span is all when API is like within an application, one service is talking to another service. Sorry, can you repeat that?
If we are producing the APIs and we are exposing to the partners, in that circumstances, where would my API gateway sits? It will not be sequential.
No. So let's say you're hosting your application and your APIs, right? When you put an API gateway,
We are producing the API gateway. Yes.
API gateway. At the API gateway, you can do the authentication side of it. You can take care of it, authentication of the API, authorization of the API, rate limit the API, and all that stuff you can do it at the API gateway level. So this is the Nginx. Nginx is a very lightweight software which can actually run inside. It is so lightweight that you can actually run it inside a pod itself, right? So you can use it as a web server. I mean, you'll be surprised to know that more than 500 million websites in the world runs on Nginx Plus.
But it's a separate product itself,
It's
or
a-
the plugin has to be installed in somewhere. The API.
It's a separate product, but it's part of F5 only. But it's a separate software product, and it's primarily for the customers who have a microservices based application. That
So it's
that
like
level
a
of
service bus. It's like a service bus in between the internal network. Service bus.
Service bus, that is something which you would have, which you actually integrate with your CI/CD pipeline when you actually spin up your pod on the fly. That is where the ingress controller will play an important role. You see there. I mean, I'm not sure if it is really visible. So API gateway sits at the perimeter, right? Like which will tell you that okay, go to this, and you have, let's say you have one red service. These are multiple nodes, multiple servers, server 1, server 2, server 3. You have a red service running for high availability and resiliency purpose. You have red service running in server 1, server 2, and server 3. When you go to the API gateway or to the ingress controller, the ingress controller will tell you to that which pod your traffic should go to get that traffic, because the pod is something which actually it gets created, and it's not an IP base. That it is not static in nature.
So where is Nginx sits?
Where is
Nginx sits.
so Nginx sits? One is at the gateway level as an API gateway, then on the node level itself as an ingress controller, and you can also have it running on a pod itself if you want to have a web service, or you want to use Nginx as a reverse proxy or as a web server. This is Gartner API reference architecture. Whatever I've been talking till now, it's more about if you have your everything on-prem, we have solutions on-prem. If you have your solutions, if you have your applications based on a microservices architecture, we have an Nginx portfolio for that, taking care of the entire API gateway, API security, and all that stuff at a microservice level. And if you looking out for a SaaS-based offering or a managed service offering, we have a distributed cloud which will protect you from DDoS attacks, API security, WAF, whatever I've been talking about. So these are the multiple dashboards. The dashboards, I mean, you will be able to see this in the demo, that the kind of reporting we provide. It's not, we have separate two separate dashboards. One is just from the performance perspective, that how your applications are performing. Because when you have a client sitting somewhere and you have a server, and when let's say you have a latency, so it is very difficult to identify that where that latency is, whether it is at the client side, whether it is at the server side, or it is just the security controls in between who's actually introducing the latency. So you'll be able to see that in the demo, that where actually that latency is. And this is the performance side of it. Other is we have a separate dashboard from the security standpoint, where you will be able to see that what all attacks are there, what all methods are being used, and all that stuff. Yeah, so with that, I just conclude that if you are really worried about your applications and websites, and if you really want them to go faster and secure and perform well, I think F5 is the right place, and we can really help you. And if any one of you have any queries and want to understand anything in detail, we are just around and just really happy to address your queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. So I know there'll be a lot of questions we address to. Over the next 2 days, we do have a booth. You can come and visit us. But for today, we'll have all the team out there, so you can meet them and discuss with them. So the next one is, I know a lot of questions were raised. So the next one is a live demonstration. So I would like to call upon Saransh Kaushik, who's a solution engineer. So to showcase us and walk us through this live demonstration, like how less than a minute you can just get the console up and running. Okay, while he's setting up, any questions? Any questions for Deepak? Deepak?
So because we are dealing with the API security, how about the data privacy part? How does F5 takes care of the data privacy? Because we have a lot of PII data coming in and out.
So I'll take this because I head the government business, so I keep on listening these questions, and from the data privacy perspective, I'll tell it's a multi-fold solution that we have. If we talk about an on-prem solution, let's say if you take our F5 advanced web application firewall, when you talk about data privacy, when you access any website, right, you don't really want that someone to get into the source code and able to see that what is the username, what is the password, what kind of things have been exchanged, what kind of server it is. So we have this flexibility that we can mask whatever information, which the thing is called, which is called HTML field obfuscation. Let's say, and this is very good question, I'll tell you, because most of the attackers, what they do is when they access any application, let's say they're trying to order a pizza, the moment they've gone to that order site, right, pay, they'll open that developer tool, they'll be able to see all those application fields, they'll be able to manipulate that application field. They'll, rather than 800, they'll remove 2 zeros and they'll order that pizza at 8 rupees. That's the level of manipulation can be done at the application level. But if you really want to hide any certain fields, let's say, for example, in this example, you want to hide that price field or the username field or the password field or whatever field, we have this flexibility to customize your code. That this is HTML field obfuscation that comes as a part of F5 app, where you can actually substitute these fields in an encrypted format in some random values. So even if the attacker will be able to do a developer with the help of developer tool able to view the source code, he'll not be able to see those values. It will be in the encrypted format. So we do this. We have done this for a lot of customers. Yeah.
Can you
It's a great presentation. First of all, you've been a consumer for sure for a long time. So my question is, well, we are looking at all the discoverable APIs and then probably manage how the APIs potentially could be misutilized. That's one part of it. The second part is actually for unauthorized users, you can actually make the APIs themselves undiscoverable. Is that kind of feature that's there in F5 products right now? Because what I can do is, for example, some API call is coming in, but I can make sure that my public APIs either non-discoverable or you can say not available. So that is that feature into your API gateway products right now?
When you talk about APIs, you're right. There are different type of APIs. One is public API, private API, and partner-based APIs, all that stuff. But the question that you asked is more from the developer side of it, where when you are actually developing those APIs, so you will be protecting it. That if you really don't want to expose those APIs to the public, then there is a certain level of access control that you need to have at the maybe that application level or like that, so that it is not being consumed by anyone. Though you can have certain amount of rate limiting, or you can actually restrict a certain type of API completely at our with our solution.
Yeah, but not necessarily at every API level, but across APIs which are open, there is a possibility to make them undiscoverable in the first place for external world. So is that, maybe we can talk offline.
Yeah, when you have to do it undiscoverable, we can do a discovery of it, but how to undiscover it, I'm not really sure of. But yes,
We'll take it up offline.
yeah,
Is
sure.
ready.
I'll connect with you, sir. Definitely.
Okay, so he's going to be there. He's going to discuss with you offline. Thank you. Over to Saransh.
So whatever Deepak has covered in these PPTs, sir has queries regarding the APIs and how we do discovering it, and sir had certain queries regarding how you do protecting the APIs. I'll just giving you a walkthrough for the console. So the console you see right over here, it has host of services. So what we're covering today would be this particular service, which is a web application and API security. So this particular term, as you can see, has been coined by Gartner in 2019-20. So we provide you each and every single service in this particular SaaS solution. So every different customer have a separate tenants for them. It is not a shared sort of an infra. And we have POP across the globe, you can say. So in India, we have two POPs, Chennai and Mumbai. So we can provide you WAF service from there. We can provide you DDoS, where that is your L3, L4, layer 7 DDoS. We can provide you API security. And then we have a couple more stories like MCN cloud and other more options we can have. So just to give you a demo of it, this is how the console looks like. Oh, it is logged out. I'll just log in. Yeah. Thanks for highlighting that, Deepak. मेरा बैग ना वहाँ पे वहाँ से कनेक्ट कर सकते हो अतुल के पास है Yeah, so this is how the console looks like. Okay, so this particular tenant is based out in India location for this particular geographic. So this particular tenant would be spinned in within India location itself. So it is not like that we are spinning that instance somewhere outside India. So it is in India. And the POPs are our own. The location in which we are not present, they are being pairing from AWS, Azure and GCP. So now, as Deepak mentioned in slide, it hardly takes 5 minutes to onboard your application. So now, just to ask you, I can also see that there are certain people from BFSI background as well. How much time will take generally to onboard any FQDN on your WAF? So in my case, I just need 3 prerequisites from your side. Your URL, the domain name. After that, I need the backend IP and certificates if any. We'll just upload everything over here in the configuration bar, and then we'll give you a CNAME entry. You have to just do a DNS entry of that particular CNAME at your side. We'll come man in the middle and provide you any sort of an, you can say, security. I'll show you how we have done that. So I've just created a demo URI for you, which goes like ra.convocation@.com. So I just added the domain over here, and post that I just added my IP over here. Just give me a second. So this is the backend IP. Now just before your backend IP, F5 gives you an IP from their POP. So that if any sort of an attack is coming towards you, it goes through us. So in case of any sort of an WAF attack, any sort of an DDoS attack, everything going via our POP. And then your particular IP won't be exposed. So if you do NS lookup to this particular So if you do NS lookup for this particular IP, you see my CNAME over here. So if any sort of an attacker is coming to you, they have to go through us. And then we can implement a lot of policies. Now, once it is onboarded, you can just come back to your performance dashboard. So any sort of a solution you opt out for, 2 major things is how the logging is and what sort of an visibility that solution is offering you. So if you see this particular tenant of mine, it has a host of data. So we have customized in 2 ways. One is performance. So now anywhere your domain would be hosted, we can just provide you the service. Now main concern would be latency, because my POPs are somewhere else, your domain is hosted somewhere else. What would be the end-to-end latency? So if you see over here, I have just selected this particular load balancer, and we provide you end-to-end latency for the same. So I just select one of my applications. Sorry, it is getting logged out again and again. I'll log in. Yeah. So it provides you health score. So this particular health score is on various parameters. So you can also check on which particular POP of mine currently you are being connected. If in case that POP goes down, in real time, you would be just forwarded to the next POP. It works on any cast and BGP. So I've given you, assigned you a static IP address on any of the application you are onboarding over here, and then you can just use any of our POPs in real time. So if you see this particular dashboard over here, it provides an end-to-end latency from client. I'll just zoom out a little bit. Till then application, and provides you end-to-end journey that how much latency are offering you. Now this latency is for last 5 minutes. You can also check hourly, weekly, and for last 30 days. Now, if you want to check latency for particular request as well, that visibility is also available over here itself. Apart from that, if I'll go on the other side of this, you also have a bar in which you can just have the active alerts. So now there are certain alerts which you have occurred in the past. Now there are certain active alerts as well. So for an example, suddenly you have started getting a lot of WAF alerts. So what you can do, you can just configure SMS alerts for you, and we just need a phone number, no message gateways and like this, and an email ID. So you can just tell you that these alerts are happening, and suddenly these WAF alerts have increased. So you can get a real-time alert intimations for that as well. Apart from that, it also tells you unique visitors, from which browsers you have connected, what sort of an origin servers it is, end-to-end latency, and it will also tell you the request. So it tells you the request rate per second, total request, error rate, total errors, what is the drop rate, and what is the drop count. Apart from that, which unique devices, total devices have accessed you. It gives like Mac, Android, any sort of a browser. It provides you all those sort of details over here. Apart from that, what is the throughput for this particular FQDN? For an example, what is the upstream throughput? What particular request data transfer it is happening? And what is the downstream throughput? And what sort of browsers are being accessed? Or what sort of browser are accessing this particular website, or you can say URL at real time. You can get this data. Apart from that, if you visit on the top, we have a lot of options like metrics, traffic, origin servers, alerts, and requests. So over here in request, you can just have a real-time idea what sort of requests are being here for last 6 hours or last hours. So you can just check what sort of requests are there. So we have done a classification in 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, and 5x. So just for your demonstration, I'll just select any request over here. So it is a get request. So this tell you what is the response code for that particular request, and then it gives you a proper idea what is the source IP, what is the source site, what sort of an user agent have been used. So this has been a attack created by me using a Postman browser. So it provides you any sort of in detail over here, and this is only related to your particular performance dashboard only. Security part I'm yet to cover. So there are a lot of policies you can configure, and accordingly you can get the login. Apart from that, if you visit this traffic part, it gives you an idea from which particular POP from F5 your traffic is being initiated. Now to validate how many POPs does F5 have, and on which particular POP your configuration is being there. So you have an option over here which is app traffic. So these are the list of our POPs in real time. So SFE CH is for Chennai, SFE MEM is for Mumbai. So you have a list of all the POPs. Now you have a graphical representation over here. I'll just zoom it for you. So this gives you a sort of an health stats in the current, for example, which particular POPs are ready, are in healthy state, and at what particular POP you are having your configuration. So for an example, we had a flood situation in Chennai, and at that particular time, any sort of a data center in Chennai were down due to XYZ reason. So at real time using Anycast and BGP, we shifted the traffic to Mumbai location or any other nearest POP available, and you were unimpacted at real time. So once you do the configuration on this console, it's been pushed to each and every single POP in our console. So irrespective if any console goes down in the future, your traffic would be working through the other console. And we have a dedicated SOC team as well, which provides you current latency stats, and you can just mark a ticket to them and they can reach out. Apart from that, we have this security dashboard. Now we have certain amazing logs over here. I'll just slowly navigate it towards you. So one is threat intelligence. So it is not like we'll mark everything in WAF. So a segregation for WAF-based attack, threat intelligence-based attack, bot traffic, your API classification, your DOS-based attacks. So we have every sort of an logging for different sort of an attacks. Now this particular data you see over here is basically for all the load balancers. Now what do I mean by all load balancer? I mean the number of URLs which have been onboarded on this TNet. Now if you want to see a single TNet which is happening on that particular TNet for the last 5 minutes, it can give you data for that as well. You can also import these particular reports to your SIM in real time. You can also do an email scheduler, and you can get the reports on hourly, weekly, monthly, and daily basis. So both visibilities are there for capturing any sort of a log. Now if you come down, you can also see the security event graph. Okay, and then if you also come down, you also get the top attack sources. Now we have a segregation between ASN IP addresses, so you can block anything coming from a particular ASN depending on the BGP bearing, and then you can also block the same on the TLS fingerprinting. So just have to come over here and select what particular medium you want to choose. For an example, you want to see the data on basis of IP addresses. You can just check the data on the basis of IP addresses. At other time, you want to check the same what particular ASN is being used. So you can also select the ASN over here. Then we also have TLS fingerprinting. You can also do the blocking, but generally this happens through the DOS engine itself. And then if, for an example, you want to exclude certain TLS as well, you can also do the exclusions at the same time. Now, over here you can see the top attack path. Now, we also have top attack path for APIs as well. Now, if you see over here, this API is getting attacked. So, sir had in question, how come you came to know? So, now I'll just open a policy for you to make you understand how we are detecting this particular API. So we have an option over here, API protection. Now this API protection works in two scenarios. First is discovery. So if I ask any one of you a small question, do you know how many APIs are being consumed in your organization? I have a second question. Do you know how many APIs are being consumed in a single URL of yours? Okay, let me turn around the question. I think every one of you use Paytm. Have you thought of when you do a payment from Paytm, how quickly it reverts to you and what particular medium it is working? Any answers? So it is working on APIs. So API contacts to your bank reverts back, and then the payment gets deducted. It is working on APIs. So you see the whole journey, a sort of data is being exchanged. So your name, your account number, that data have been sent to the bank, and the bank is then reverting back with the balance. And then Paytm reflects that balance page on the application. So that is the biggest concern. So now, if I visit 10 customers of mine, 9 customers out of that say they don't know how many APIs they are consuming. So first is doing the discovery, turning the unknown to known. For that, we have to just enable the discovery part. I'll just show you the same over here. Just allow me a second. So it discovers within the URL. So there's an option to enable auto discovery. I'm just giving you that particular option. Just allow me. Sorry, sir. So, sir, within the URLs there are a lot of APIs. So I'll just enable that particular option, and we have an option to detect. I'll just show you that option. So we have this option of enable, sir, in this auto discovery. Now your question was, this is unknown territory, but within the traffic, we learn that within the URL, how many APIs are being going. So we have two options over here. First is learn from the traffic, redirect response. So you can just select enable learning from the redirect traffic. So within the URLs, we'll come to know how many APIs are there. Once you have enabled this option, you can just come back to the logging part. Yeah. No, not Swift, not Snip.
When the traffic will pass through us, right, we'll be able to read that HTTP
Correct.
payload.
Correct.
In that HTTP payload, in that body, you'll be able to see that what is the entire path that is being executed.
It works.
Anyway, decrypted.
Decrypted.
Without decrypting, we'll not be able to provide, we'll not be able to read it, and we'll not be able to provide security on it.
Yeah, certificate is required. Now, once you have done that auto discovery, we'll detect the inventory. So total APIs in inventory is 7, total discovered within the URLs is 12. And out of that, what is the shadow APIs? That is 8. So if you only want to see the discovered, you can just disable this inventory option and it will only show you the discovered APIs. Apart from that, it also gives you a classification which particular API is being used most and what particular API is active at that point of time. Apart from that, it also gives you a view that what is the major API calls within that particular APIs. With particular APIs exposing your sensitive data at that particular time within that particular URL. what are the top attacked APIs. Then we have a particular graph over here which gives you a leaf view of that API and what is there in that particular API. So you can get all data over here. What is the get, what is post. So you can just select that particular API and go deep down into it. Apart from that, there is API security as well. Now what I have demonstrated till here is only API discovery. Now you have discovered the APIs. Yes. By using?
Fuzzing.
No, no. So we are doing the discovery for you. Why we require fuzzing? Can you just?
Not like they have just opened some endpoints which are not used
Correct.
many times and which are not used very much, or we can say they are not in use, but they can give the unauthorized access. So for that it's discoverable like by the fuzzing.
So we also do that. So fuzzing is a separate part. We also tell you that. We also tell you that which particular API is exposing data for you. What are the endpoints that are exposed on that particular API. So we also do that. Yeah. So now, just to answer your question, if you want to set a definition for your organization for API security, first for discovery part, you discovered the APIs, segregated them to internal, external, partner, and publicly exposed. Once you have done the segregation, then you will just set a definition for the same. So what will happen? I'll ask you for a Swagger file, whether a JSON or YAML format. I'll set a definition for that particular file. I'll import your file over here in load balancer. I'll just show you. So we also have an option to set a definition. So I'll just click on enable and I'll just export your Swagger file over here. So then a particular definition for our API would be set for your organization and only that valid APIs would be allowed through that particular FQDN. So that's how it works. Now apart from that, we have API security on top of it. So if you see the current scenario, I was just working with a customer on Sunday. So they were facing DDoS and when we just checked the path, that particular DDoS was hitting their two APIs. Which was having their customer data. So now no data protection is there, sir, and the DDoS is triggering in a volumetric plus your bombardier scenario using a slow DDoS mitigation. Now just to make you understand and cover the DDoS in this particular part itself, the DDoS was coming from various locations at a single point of time, sir. 3 hops were coming from Sirsa location, other 3 hops were coming from Jammu location and hitting the different APIs. So creating a bombarding scenario for the organization and also choking the bandwidth at the same time, making the website lethargic and slow so that no one is able to capture what is happening exactly. So these APIs are being targeted most in current scenario. So the biggest problem is visibility. So if you recall my statement, probably none of you know how many APIs are there. Second, today you have hired a concerned person to write an API for you. He writes an API, goes back tomorrow and uploads the same somewhere else. Okay, and then 10 other people are using same. And one fine day puts a vulnerability into it. You will not come to know what is happening. So that, yeah.
So API discovery is the key here. I mean, something you don't know, you cannot protect. The moment you know what all things you have to protect, then only you'll be able to apply security.
Yeah.
I'll just come back to this particular console of mine. Yeah.
If we have the load balancer logs in our SIM, right, which everyone has.
Yeah.
So from SIM, because it's already segregated in the URI path, so from there we can directly filter out what are the APIs we are using. It's simple query, right? Because logs are already there in the load balancer logs. Correct. No, by default, when we push the logs from the load balancer, by default it will fetch out the
So generally
the host name and the all URIs.
No, it doesn't work. IP. packet, correct.
And read every HTTP header and extract an API information from it.
Okay.
Okay, cool,
So
thanks.
sir, just to answer your question, we also have the load balancing capabilities over here. So for an example, just beneath your current FQDN, you are utilizing two different IPs from different ISPs to give an HA to this particular URL. So that is separate. When you send the logs to SIM, you have an option to choose the multiple logs. So generally send the incidents. This particular API part doesn't come in any sort of an incident. So it generally invites any sort of an DDoS, or you can say intrusions. So that's why you are not able to capture that particular logging over there on SIM. We have options to forward those logs to SIM as well in real time. For example, if any incident is being indicated over here, we can just forward the logs in real time to your SIM solution as well. So I've just covered this API endpoint. So this is only 20% which I have covered. We have a lot more story on this API, so probably we can connect backstage to discuss this further. Then we have the malicious user part over here. So you can just check any sort of a malicious activity being happening on your particular FQDN. I'll just show you with the help of a proper logging over here. So it provides you a sort of an activity of any sort of a malicious user with particular city, ASN, country, source IP address. Now for an example, you are getting your traffic from Uttar Pradesh and you want to, for an example, you want to just disable the traffic coming from Lucknow. For an example, I am an attacker sitting in Lucknow location and trying to attack your FQDN again and again. We can just disable that particular Lucknow location for a certain point of time. And then we can just enable it again. So it gives you all sort of that information over here in single console. Then we have the DDoS part, which is most important nowadays. I'll just show you a current DDoS graph, which we have fortunately to show you. So you would be very shocked to see what sort of DDoS are coming within India to particular site. And all these attacks are from India location only. So in DDoS, we have generally two sort of services. One is always on and always available. So I'll just zoom a little bit for you so that you can just have a look at this particular graph over here and just see what sort of DDoS are coming towards our POP. And this is not a, you can say this is not a simulated, this is a real-time attack which we experienced. So you can see what the number of attacks coming to our POPs in real time. It was like 20-25 minutes and we discovered 490 DDoS events. Now any sort of a DDoS solution you're opting out for, it should have a scrubbing capacity. Now just to make you understand the types of DDoS attack, this slow DDoS mitigation, this bombardier, then we are choking your bandwidth, then attacker is just on different locations, is just triggering you a double pulses sort of a ping attack, then coming via intrusion attack. So it is a chain of attack which is happening. Now if you see this particular console over here, you can just move your cursor and it will give you a particular location over here.
Yeah,
Yes.
how you are doing that analysis? So the AI and ML play a major part, right? So can you throw some more light on it? So how you check how you ensure the accuracy or?
So that there are certain patterns for these sort of an attacks. So we have a certain scrubbing capacity limitation. Now for an example, if I have to demonstrate you.
No, I am asking about the data set. You compare the analytics will based on some comparison, right?
So there are different security controls that we provide. One is, and there are different mechanisms, detection and mitigation mechanisms. One is obviously the signature based is there. Other is like we're talking about this bot attack.
So let me try to make you understand with the help of this configurator. So if you see over here, just have to enable this DDoS detection. And on top of it, you have to just enable this. So that's the configuration we have and the ease of configuration. So no major configuration changes you have to do on your console. You have to just click on enable and mitigate the same automatically, and you are good to go. Then you can just choose from different options. Block. If you want to block any sort of DDoS, you just want to act like a honeypot. So you can also just detect that sort of an attacks on you. Then apart from that, you also have certain values which you can play around and do a DDoS mitigation for your organization. I'll just give you an overview of that. So if you see over here, we also have a separate tab for slow DDoS mitigation. Then we have a auto mitigation enable tab over here, and you just have to enable that. That's it. Rest will take care of that. And then you can just choose the default action as block, and your DDoS configuration is done. Now anything hitting your particular FQDN will provide you a DDoS security for the same. That is your L7 application based DDoS security in real time. And we have scrubbing capacity up to 17 Tbps in real time. So you can just scrub the traffic, provide you a clean pipe, and you can just scrub any sort of an DDoS traffic for you. So over here, if you just come to my statement which I made in the starting of the session, you can just have a look at how we configured everything in just 5 minutes. So you just onboarded your URL using this particular route tab. You just added the origin pool, the backend IP for that particular FQDN, and you just implemented the bot protection for the same. You just have to click on enable. That's it. No major configuration is there. You just configured the API discovery, and then you did the API validation and definition part for that particular URL. You configured the DDoS protection, layer 7 DDoS protection, and you just put everything in auto mitigation mode. That is your always on mode. You created a client-side defense profile over here. You get security controls. You are good to go. That's the configuration required oversight. So I'll just Deepak, anything we also want to highlight over here apart from this? Yeah. Thanks for your time, everyone. I hope you liked the demo. We can just connect one-to-one for more discussion on this. Believe me, I've just covered 20% of it. We have more to talk about. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, correct. Thank you.
Before we close.
I'll come back.
Okay, I'll allow you all to digest.
So we charge you per URL. That's it. Yeah. Per FQDN basis. We don't charge you on bandwidth, on APIs. We charge you per URL, per FQDN.
Okay. Thank you, Saransh.
Thank you, Vishal.
And now I would like to call upon Mr. Dhananjay Ganju, who is a managing director for FI. Now that you have heard all this, I want him to summarize and just give you some tidbits as to what is that next that you are going to look forward to in the next 2 days. Can I call upon Mr. Dhananjay?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. I don't have any slides, so I'll wrap up really, really quickly. But let me talk to you about a story that our Chief Product Officer, Kara Sprague, told about 3 years ago. And she said, how do organizations measure their assets in their balance sheets? So about 200 years ago, organizations used to measure their assets based on physicality of the presence of the company. I have big buildings. I have big buildings across continents. I have machinery. And you put all of that on the balance sheet and you called yourself a very big organization. That era in the 1800s was called the physical capital era. Everything was touch and feel. Then in the 1900s, the mid 1900s, I was part of that growth story that you saw how organizations changed their productivity. And who helped them? McKinsey's, the IBMs, the HPs, by giving you compute, by giving you process automation. Data, AI, what else? Keep thinking. Infrastructure, application. Thank you very much, whoever said that. You know, I mean, we are F5. We've got everything to do with applications, so it's a natural answer. For a second, just think about it. In your respective organizations, if the application were to go down even for a second, who will hear first? Twitter. Your CEO, your CIO, your CISO will hear that your application is down from Twitter. Application is your biggest asset. Now, I'll tell you two very interesting aspects to this. One is complexity, and the other is the dichotomy that we face in terms of what we do to protect our applications. And I'll give you a very loose analogy. In terms of the complexity, we vendors are to be blamed. So what you saw that Saransh was demonstrating, what he did today in 5 minutes, onboarding an application, protecting that application, and putting blocking policies, used to take 3 weeks on a physical appliance with a ponytail rocket scientist. Believe you me, a layer 3 CCIE cannot do layer 4 and layer 7 application protection. It's beyond their comprehension. You need an application oriented security individual to onboard your applications and protect them, right? So from dauntingly complex era of protecting your applications, what you have now is a ridiculously simple methodology. And I'll give you a very simple analogy. When you deploy applications on your PC, what do? You choose recommended or you choose configure my own. 9 out of 10 times I'd say recommended and you move forward. And if you saw the screens, there was custom and recommended. So what we have done is 15 years of WAF deployment. We have taken all the 400 policies that are commonly deployed across the globe by major organizations in the world, compressed them into a recommended analogy and say drop down recommended on board 5 minutes, you're done with one application. It used to take 3 weeks. Now, here's the dichotomy that we face, and you know, I'd love to have this conversation after this show, is you all came home, left home, came here today, and when you were walking out of your home, you checked, you locked the door, and you checked, you saw your windows, you gave them a penetration test, you gave it a tug on your door, it's nicely locked, you checked your perimeter very nicely. But did you leave your cash and jewelry on your center table? No, you put your cash and jewelry inside the safe, inside your Godrej locker, right? But what happens in the way people spend money is 80% of the money is spent in building perimeter and infrastructure. 20% is left to do what? To secure your crown jewels, which are your applications. The attackers don't want to do anything with your perimeter. They don't get any money out of your perimeter. Attackers get all the money out of your applications. Flip it, please. When you take budgets from your organization, what you should be doing is 80% of your budget should be going in protecting your crown jewels. And 20%, well, I don't want to be unfair to the layer 3 and layer 2 vendors of the world, but the layer 4 and layer 7 vendors is where your crown jewels lie. And that's the dichotomy that we face today that needs to change. I'd be very happy to take any questions, and otherwise we'll end the session today.
Any questions?
Oh, great. All of them answered. We'd be on the booth and we'd be happy to demonstrate how we've made application protection more simple. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you everybody for listening to us for the next 90 minutes. What I will do is quickly I'll introduce the team. So over the next 2 days you'll be seeing them here, and even offline you want to know, you know who is the person who is based where. So you know Deej, I'll call upon Deej as well. Deej is based in Bangalore, who is a managing director for F5. Deepak, who is the team lead for solution engineer based in Delhi. Let me call upon Abhishek. Abhishek is based in Delhi, he's a PSU lead. Bhavya Tharakupadhyay, he leads the FSI in West region based in Mumbai. I got Saransh. Saransh is based in Delhi, who's a solution engineer. Atul is based in Delhi, who is our territory account manager. So we've got a lot of team based in Delhi and across the region we have traveled. And I'm based in Bangalore. I head the marketing. I don't know whether Vinod is around. Vinod? Okay, Vinod is my colleague who is based in Bangalore, who leads the South Territory, who is the South leader. So this is the team, which is the team here to cater to y'all. The rest of the team is still back in the business doing their job. So if you have anything over the next 2 days, you'll have all of us and many more joining over tomorrow and day after. Just drop by the booth. There's a lot of excitement.